minors across state lines to have unlawful sex, hid cash transactions for the government, and ran a continuing criminal enterprise. Depending on the outcome of a pre-sentencing investigation, York faces from 20 to 30 years in federal prison, said Maxwell Wood, U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Georgia. The case was moved from Brunswick from Macon because of extensive publicity there. Now, basically on this show, we're not going to discuss Dr. York's religious views. What we are coming on this show is to give you an opportunity to ask questions of some of his followers about whether or not Dr. York was railroaded, whether or not there were illegal things done during the investigation, and whether or not even some of the alleged victims in this case actually changed their testimony and went in and told the court and the judge and the prosecutors that they were not abused. That is what we are here to do tonight, is to discuss the case. And if you have some questions, be sure and call on 770-559-2999 and get your questions in. Now tonight we have Frederick Johnson, we have Al Woodall, and we have Damon Pryor here with us, and I want to welcome you gentlemen to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Now, this indictment, and well, he's been found guilty. The trial is over except for the appeal. What is it that you are saying happened in this particular case?
Okay. Well, even though you said, like you said, it's over, it's not quite over. That process is over. And one of the unfortunate aspects of the judicial process is that since day one, and this case has been going on almost 2 years now, since day one, the prosecution has been making mistakes with this case, violating Mr. York's 6th Amendment rights, his 14th Amendment right, and his first.
You need to be a little bit more specific about what it is that they're doing, because when you name amendments, people normally don't understand what it is that you're saying.
Right, that's true. Well, namely, they violated his presumption of innocence. That's the biggest thing. Due to the fact that all of the negative media publicity that they had spread out there, all of the implications that they've given about him before him going to a jury already destroyed his presumption of innocence. So going in, you already had people there who said, well, because of what I've seen on Channel 13 or heard on this radio station or read in the Macon Telegraph or AJC, he's already guilty as far as my mind. So in other words, he wasn't able to get a fair trial from day one.
Now, isn't that why the trial was moved to Brunswick, so that he could get a fair trial?
That's what we were all told. That's what we were all told. But the reality of it is, and this came with doing a little research, that that was actually a city that the judge grew up in and prosecuted in as an attorney, went to school in, went to church in, knew all of the people there. So when he came out, and well, rather when that order came out stating that it was going to be changed there, it's called a change of venue, because of all the negative media publicity against him and the Nuwaubians and the Yamasee Native Americans, and everybody thought, oh, okay, it was going somewhere that was fair. That was the most unfair place for it to go. And I won't say that the place was unfair so much as the people that were selected from the jury. And to keep it from being something that all of us could scrutinize, because we have a right as a public to know what's going on in our community, that the jury was made anonymous. And what that means is that you had a panel of 12 jurors and nobody knew who they were except the prosecution or the judicial counsel, for lack of another word. They're the only ones who knew who they were. So technically, you could have had a jury panel of 12 members of the Ku Klux Klan. You could have had a jury member of 12 members of the Sons of the Confederate, 12 members of people who are part of the Concerned Citizens Against Nuwaubians, and have them on a jury and not know it and couldn't say anything about it.
Well, usually with the jury selection process, the prosecutor sits down and the defense attorney sits down, and they choose from a pool of jurors and each one of them has a certain number of jurors that they can disqualify.
That's true. That's how it's supposed to work.
Now, you're saying in this particular instance, there was no selection of jurors by the prosecution and by the defense?
No, there was selection of jurors, but even that group was made anonymous. And how it was supposed to work is that if you know something about the case, automatically you were supposed to get stricken off. But they were allowed to stay in there. They were allowed to stay on. It's almost like, all right, you get to choose a few and I get to choose a few, and we try to balance it out. But Brother Williams, when you're already working on a pool that's already outside of your favor, you can only do the best that you can with what you were allowed to select from. Now, there was one juror that was able to get on, and she was a black female. We don't know her name. All we know is that she was juror number 62. And during the deliberation of the case, a message was sent back out where she was saying this is a conspiracy. It's obvious that they are against this man, and I've seen a case like this before, and they found an innocent man was found guilty only to be found innocent later, and I don't want this to happen with this defendant, with Mr. York. The prosecution and everybody else was infuriated by it, and they sent them back in to deliberate, read them the charge that, you have to do this according to the way I said it, and 45 minutes came back with guilty on 10 counts.
Now, so you're saying that after this juror went back into deliberations, then she ended up changing her mind.
In less than before we could come back from lunch good, her mind was changed.
Now, getting into the specifics of the case, it has been said that they found a large Pink Panther doll with male genitalia attached. And this Pink Panther doll was shown to the jurors as a tool and a device that Dr. York used to entice these children in order to do these sexual things. How do you all explain that?
It's real easy because me and my brother, Mr. Johnson, was in the court. It wasn't open. That's something else. They wouldn't allow the public access to the court. They had it on a closed circuit television 3 floors up, and then they cut it off when something was said or they didn't want you to see something. But what did come out during that trial was the fact that when they brought in FBI agents who were involved with the illegal raid that they performed on May 8th, 2002, that it proved that when they started getting cross-examined by the defense attorney, that was a doll that was found in storage. And then the property that it was found in, the storage property, wasn't even of the belongings of Malachi York. So at no point did they even prove that was his doll. You understand?
Wow. Now I understand that you have a friend here of Dr. York's son, Jacob York. Yes. Now, it has been alleged by the defense that it was really Dr. York's son who perpetrated this whole conspiracy, and that right before all of these indictments came down, that he took a lot of the alleged victims on a trip to Miami, Florida. Correct. And when they came back from Miami, Florida, it was then that these alleged victims got together and decided to go to the FBI. Could you elaborate on what it is that Dr. York's son